Hi, welcome to the physical practice for week 2 of Healing the Body. I'm up here at the MICA Project, the Minnesota Institute of Contemplation and Healing. It's up in Crookston, Minnesota, up in northern Minnesota, and it's a beautiful facility and community, and there's a great grass labyrinth. So if you're ever up in this neck of the woods, do come by and check it out. It's just outside of Crookston, Minnesota. This week we're focusing on the spine. So if you have a bad back or any kind of back pain today or any day this week, make sure that you're tending to that. Make sure that you're listening to your body and taking care of your back. We're going to do 3 different parts for this physical practice for this week. And I encourage you, again, just like last week, try to do this every day this week. Perhaps last week you found some rhythms that worked for you. Maybe starting your day with the physical practice was especially helpful. Maybe ending your day, maybe finding a break somewhere in the middle worked well for you. I encourage you to continue exploring, discovering that rhythm in terms of your own healing practices on a daily basis. Just like last week, I want you to focus on breathing. Breathe in through the nose, out the mouth. We're going to start on the floor again with some floor work. I've got my yoga mat. You could use a quilt or blanket as well. Especially this first part of today's practice, it'll be a little more helpful to have a firm floor underneath you as opposed to doing this on top of a bed, for example. And just like last week, any of these activities that we're doing, we are trying to release to the floor, remembering that the floor will hold us up and our skin will hold us together. The first thing we're going to do is called a heel rock. Go ahead and look at me for a moment. You're going to use as few muscles as possible down by your heels, especially around your heels and also in your legs. And you're going to point those toes up towards the sky and then towards that wall on the other side of you. So like this. This is the heel rock. Using as few muscles as possible and using those heels as pivot points, you're going to rock your whole body, but everything, especially from this region, head down to the pelvis, is kind of simply along for the ride. You're using as few muscles as possible down at the heels. But before we do that, just go ahead and release to the floor, arms out, free and easy to your sides, shoulder blades relatively flat on the floor. Breathe in through your nose, out your mouth. In through your nose, out your mouth. Finding your own rhythm for breath, please. Go ahead and just wiggle your fingertips and your toes and let that go. If anything, you can encourage a little bit of length in your exhale so that your exhale is slightly longer than your inhale. What that does is it lets our autonomic nervous system know that we're safe. We're safe. By letting that exhale be a little bit longer than the inhale, or a lot of it longer than the inhale, it lets our nervous system know that we're safe. It's okay. We're safe. All's good. And now we're going to go ahead and heel rock. On the inhale, point those toes up towards the sky, and on the exhale, go ahead and pump those toes towards the sky and towards that opposite wall, down towards your feet. Go ahead and do this for a few breaths, allowing everything that's not absolutely necessary, everything that you don't need in order to do the heel rock is simply along for the ride. On the next exhale, release to the floor. Breathe in. Exhale, release to the floor. One more time. Breathe in, point those toes towards the sky, and heel rock. Just check in with those surfaces, your back surfaces that are making contact with the floor. Also check in with how your body just kind of follows along. How do your shoulders just kind of follow along? Head and neck. On the next exhale, go ahead and just release to the floor. Breathe in. Go ahead and vocalize on a sigh if you want on this exhale. Or yawn. Once again, inhale, toes point towards the sky, exhale, towards the ceiling, and heel rock. Allowing yourself to breathe as freely and easily as possible, especially in that lower belly, that lower abdomen. On the next exhale, releasing to the floor. And again, breathe in. Exhale, sigh. Or yawn. Clearly I need a nap. Go ahead and bring your arms out to your sides so that they're perpendicular with your legs. Put your flat feet on the ground. Push up through your feet so that your pelvis is lifted slightly off the floor. And bring that pelvis slightly over to your left of center. Drop those knees over into the right. And go ahead and look past your left hand. So your nose is pointing towards your left hand, the same direction as your left hand, and your knees are pointing in the same direction as your right hand. Go ahead as much as possible and release to the floor on every exhale. Encourage length in your spine by drawing that tailbone slightly down towards that opposite wall, your foot wall, and from the top of your head, that place where old-fashioned headphones would come up on top of your head, or where the skeleton in a biology classroom, where the hook on the top of the skull would be for that skeleton to hang down. From that point, lift up slightly towards your head wall. Breathing in fully, freely, and easily, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Especially encouraging release in your lower abdomen, your lower belly. Wiggle your fingertips and your toes just to remind yourself of those limbs. And on the next exhale, point your nose towards the sky. Bring your flat feet down to the floor and push down through your feet in order to lift your pelvis off the floor. We're going to go the opposite direction. So the pelvis goes slightly over to right of center. Drop those knees over into the left. And look over past your right palm, over your right palm. Now your nose is pointed in the same direction as your right hand. Your knees are pointed in the same direction as that left hand. Allow those knees to fall as freely and easily as they can towards the floor. Let weight and gravity help with this process. This trunk twist, any trunk twisting, is helpful for digestion. Might not be the best thing to do right after you eat, might not be incredibly comfortable, but before you've eaten, or even an hour afterwards, a couple hours afterwards, this can be helpful for digestion. Every exhale, try to release a little bit more to the floor. Wiggle those fingertips and those toes again. And inhale. On the exhale, point that nose towards the sky, knees towards the sky, and we're going to go ahead and repeat the heel rock. Arms come back down to the sides, shoulder blades are flat on the floor. On the inhale, point those towards the ceiling, and on the exhale, begin to heel rock. Just paying attention to the freedom and the ease with which you move. Do you notice any difference from the first heel rock? We're going to do this for a couple of breaths. Try to release as much as possible everything that isn't necessary to perform the heel rock. Maybe especially focusing on the lower abdomen, the lower belly. On the next exhale, release to the floor. The floor will hold you up, and your skin will hold you together. Gently come to standing. In order to do this, you might want to first head over to your side in a fetal position. From there, you could head into a hands and knees position, a crawling position. Go ahead and keep your head and neck free and released. And from there, you can step onto your feet. I'm going to adjust the monitor slightly. So standing, I'm going to face to the side. Standing, we're going to release our vertebrae one at a time, starting from the top and heading down to your vertebrae, which are down in your tailbone. So one at a time. There are 7 vertebrae in your neck. Just go ahead and slowly release those vertebrae. Bend your knees, and there will come a point where the weight of your upper body simply takes your upper body over so that you're flopping like a rag doll. A good test of this is imagine that you're in a spaghetti western, a cheap western film, and you've just been shot by the enemy. And imagine that you're riding in the saddle still, but the top of your body, from what would be your head to your pelvis, is just kind of flopping freely and easily over. Now go ahead and draw that tailbone down towards the floor. Let your weight sink into those feet and roll up through the spine. So building up those vertebrae, slowly rolling up through the spine. Starting with the vertebrae that are down at the base of the spine and then going up. 7 vertebrae in the neck, just like a giraffe. Fun fact for the day. Go ahead, we're going to do this again. So first, look over, arching that neck slightly like a cat until you can see your toes or the floor. Then go ahead and bend the knees. Keep on rolling down until you get to that point where the weight just kind of takes over and you end up like a rag doll, flopped over. Engage that tailbone as if there's a string tied to your tailbone that's pulling that tailbone with weight down towards the floor. Look at your feet. Look at your feet. Look at the floor as long as you possibly can. Rolling up the spine. Allowing those shoulders to fall into place out freely and easily to the sides of your spine. One more time. Bending the knees, looking down. And building up the spine one more time. Engage the tailbone, sit down a little bit lower. When you do this, the bend in the knees will increase. Pushing down with the feet in order to build up the spine. Watch your feet if you can, or the floor as long as you can, as long as you possibly can. And there we are. We've built up the spine. The long, strong, supple spine. Enjoy this week's physical practice. Have a good week.